I think there are sirens in Lake Lanier. Let me explain. Okay, y'all know when I got my big bonnet on, I do a lot of thinking. So y'all want me to keep the series going. In the last video, we spoke about how I feel like my late uncle was taken by a siren in the Caribbean waters, specifically Haiti. Let's talk about Lake Lanier. Just for a backstory, over 200 people have drowned in Lake Lanier since the 90s. Like it's got some really dark energy. And the people that have survived a close encounter in Lake Lanier, 90% of the time all say the same thing, and that is that they feel something pulling them under. Now, I know what you could be thinking. Sirens are only in the ocean. Like, what do you mean? Actually, across mythology, sirens have the ability to teleport between waters, rivers, lakes, oceans, ponds even. It's absolutely crazy. But first, let's talk about Lake Lanier and the dark history behind it. In Oscarville, Georgia, in the early 1900s, formerly enslaved people basically used that part of Georgia to make another black Tulsa. It was a booming and bustling and thriving city with its own education systems, banks, businesses, Black Wall Street all over again. But then in 1912, a white woman was assaulted and 3 black men went down for it without any evidence. They were all unalived, but the white people in that area, they decided that that wasn't enough. To this day, I hear that Forsyth County is actually really dangerous for black people. I'm not sure. I'm not from Georgia. You guys tell me. But they took this opportunity to go in and pew pew into homes, to burn down churches with people in it, just unalive anyone they could find, essentially. 1,100 black residents fled for their lives, leaving the bodies of their loved ones behind. And they wanted to build a reservoir there, the white people at that time. So they flooded the area. So still to this day, under Lake Lanier, there are black bodies, bones, cemeteries, schools, banks, and what's left is a dark, sinister energy. And that's why a lot of people think that people unalive in Lake Lanier, because it's like a reckoning. But I have another theory. You guys already know that sirens often rear their heads in places with dark energy. That's what I've heard. With the theory being that sirens can go between waters, I was like, what if there are sirens pulling people under in Lake Lanier? But then I asked myself, how could they go between waters? This is gonna sound crazy, but like I said, I got my big bonnet on. So if you can't think outside the box, get yourself a big bonnet. I know how they found that mega ocean under the ocean, right? And y'all know that in the ocean, there's something called an eddy, which is a giant black hole, usually the size of Texas. It can go for months and even years, and no scientist has been able to find out where they go. What if the demonic marine kingdom is also in the mega ocean under the ocean? What if that's how they travel back and forth? Is that crazy? Isn't that kind of weird? Like, thinking about that, if that's the reason why there's so many siren sightings in so many different bodies of water. Crazy, right? Anyway, y'all, as always, make sure you like and follow and comment down below if you want this series to keep going. Okay, now I'm really convinced that sirens are real. I am so convinced. So let's talk about Cantinflas. I've been speaking about him in this last video. He was a famous Mexican actor that thoroughly believed that sirens existed, so much that he wanted to marry one. And everybody thought he was crazy until he met a dude in the bar that said, you can be married to a siren, or mermaids, they called a mermaid. You can be married to a mermaid and they'll come to you, but you have to make a house in Acapulco and you have to put a statue out there. Build a statue of yourself directly facing the water and they will come to you. He was rich, so he had a whole house built. It's still there, like people go tour all the time. He had the house built and like the pool had an opening to the ocean so they can come in. And it's said, legend has it, that they did, and people saw it, but they'd only come in the AMs. And y'all know that demon time is in the AM. That's why anytime someone texts you what you doing in the AMs, close your phone. They don't have any good intentions for you. And that really just solidifies it for me, because honestly, people act like it's so crazy to believe that sirens exist, but more people than you would think believe that. They're just nervous to say it out loud. But why am I bringing this up again? Because Bianca, girl, you just brought up something crazy. Let's really talk about that. Y'all know in the Little Mermaid, in that movie, Ariel in her like little cave thing with her thingamabobs, she has a statue of Prince Eric. I never understood why, but now it's giving subliminal, because if you look into like the lore, the mythology of Siren, it dates all the way back to an ancient deity. I believe it's the Babylonian god Dagon, who was half animal, half fish. That ties into the fallen angels and everything. That's for a whole other video. But one of the ritual practices was building a statue of yourself or of a siren to like basically like give an offering to them, to show them reverence or homage. So if the dude told Cantinflas to to build a statue of himself facing the water. Is that some weird coincidence that Ariel had a statue of Prince Eric? Is that like some weird thing where like if you make a statue of yourself, you're pledging yourself to that person? Because Ariel ended up getting with Prince Eric. She was a siren and he was a human. And apparently Cantinflas, he got his mermaid wife. But was it because he made a statue for him or for her of himself? Like connecting, binding each other? I don't know, y'all. It's kind of crazy. It is such a weird coincidence. As always, make sure you guys like and follow and tell me what you think. I'm so curious. No, literally, the Book of Enoch talks about sirens and I found that so insane. Y'all, I'm telling you, I always thought sirens were real, but I could never pinpoint where, like, who are they? Where do they come from? But then when I read the Book of Enoch, and it said, which I read as history, not scripture, but when it said that sirens are actually the mortal women that procreated with the fallen angels that were cursed to the sea during the flood, because the fallen angels, they were dealt with, but some of them became demons as well. The Nephilim, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, because they are half divine and half earthly, just like the demigod kind of thing in the Greek mythology, they couldn't go anywhere, so that they were cursed to roam the earth as demons as well, which I feel like that's why Ephesians 6:12 says that there's principalities, there's rulers of the darkest, spiritual wickedness in high places. Like there's different levels to it. And I think that the sirens are the demonic marine kingdom part of it, because if you think about it, all of the siren lore, it really lines up with the fact that it would be the women that procreated with the fallen angels, because the fallen angels lusted after the mortal women, but the mortal women knew that they were being with fallen angels. So they craved something different. They craved power, because the fallen angels also brought down heavenly knowledge that we were never supposed to know, according to the Book of Enoch, like sorcery, like divination, even reading and writing, which crazy enough, the fallen angel that supposedly, allegedly taught to read and write was named Penemuel. Pencil, pen. Hello, isn't that so crazy? And part of me feels like that's the reason why God wrote the 10 commandments with his own hand, to show dominion. Like, yeah, y'all may have taught them that heavenly knowledge, but I'm reclaiming it. Does that make sense? Anyway, y'all, back to the sirens. But yes, all of the lore lines up. Most of the time, sirens are seen as women that use music. Lucifer was an angel of worship. Hence the whole music industry thing, how he rules that music industry. They're using music to lure who to the sea? Men. Men are the reason for the curse. And while they were actual mortals on earth and they were learning divination, which is actually where child sacrifice came into play, because they were like using their menstrual cycles and studying the moon and how that connected to their menstrual cycle, learning sorcery, witchcraft, divination, and using those God-given things like childbirth, children, to do other witchcraft kind of thing. I can't get into that too deep because TikTok, they be taking my videos down. But yes, y'all, it is so crazy. The Book of Enoch is absolutely wild. I actually have not finished it completely, but it's just wild to think that the sirens, basically, if you think about it, sirens are mothers of demons, because if the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim became demons as well, that means that sirens are technically mothers of demons, technically. And you know what else it technically means? It technically means that everything in the water is the same thing as what was in the water during the times of Noah. Let that sink in. Let that sink in, and think about how we have not discovered all of it. Like, can we talk about the Mariana Trench? Mariana Trench is the deepest point of the ocean that we know, and it is deeper than Mount Everest is tall. They have reported hearing metallic sounds from the Mariana Trench. Everything in that area of the ocean is mutated, and scientists say that there could be an entire ecosystem that we know nothing about. There could be an entire presence that we know nothing about. Y'all remember when Congress said that there's a presence in the ocean? Okay, and y'all, there are lakes in the trench. There are lakes in the ocean. Like, there is also a mega ocean under the ocean, and there have been sonars that have discovered tunnels, like caverns under there. Y'all, it could be a whole marine civilization under there, bro. It could be a whole, like, don't even get me started. Don't get me started. Anyway, y'all, as always, make sure you like and follow and comment down below if I should keep this series going.